We've got our styrofoam nicely glued into the module frame, nice and solid, relatively flush with the top of the module frame. We could probably start to lay road bed and track on top of the deck, but that might be some weeks or months, and who knows, and maybe even years, before we get the whole module completed, scenic, and the structures installed. And in the meantime, we'll be staring at that blue styrofoam, which is going to detract from the nice track work and ballasting that we've just finished. And even when we have that top deck nicely completed with the structures and the scenery, my experience has been that I'm still staring at that gap in the module frame and the styrofoam deck. So we're going to do a little bit of fine-tuning to the top of the module so that when we're done, you won't know where the styrofoam ends and the module frame begins. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is to smooth out the transition between the module frame and the top of the styrofoam. We've got some glue that's dried on top of the module frame that we're going to get rid of. Any place where there's a ridge, we're going to take our utility knife and just scrape it off. A bit up there and a bit down here. And then we're going to take our palm sander and sand off the bit of the remaining glue. So right now we're going to take our palm sander and we're going to sand the edges of the module frame plus a bit of the styrofoam to try and get rid of as much of that glue that's stuck on the module frame as possible. Now that we've got things relatively smooth, we're going to apply several coats of spackling compound. We're going to be sanding in between the coats until we make the gap in the module frame and our styrofoam deck disappear. We've got a color-coated spackling compound that's pink when it's moist but dries white when it's dry. Now, straight out of the tub, the spackling compound is very thick, so we're going to slowly add water, and the operative word is slowly. We just don't pour it in from our tub. We're going to spray it in just a bit, and then we're going to mix it up thoroughly until we get it to the consistency of Dream Whip, you know, the stuff that you add to your cake, the icing that you add to your cake or to dessert. The only problem is spackling compound, unlike Dream Whip, is not edible. So we're taking some spackling compound and we're going to apply it to the seam between the module frame. And we got a bit of a gap in here, so we're going to just push it into that gap all the way across. And then scrape it off. Now, we don't have to be perfect here, because we're going to apply several coats. And we're going to be sanding in between the coats. We're using our wide putty knife to make sure that we have a nice smooth transition between the module frame and the styrofoam. Just remember, wherever we've got that little bit of a seam between the styrofoam and the module frame, that we stuff the spackling compound into the sink. And we just keep working our way around the perimeter of the module. We've got the first coat of spackling compound applied. Spackling compound is similar to hydrocal, except that it's very, very light when it dries, and we have lots of working time to apply it and smooth it out. It sands very easy, but it's very hard and durable when it dries. Now you'll notice that we've used a very wide putty knife to spread the spackling compound. We apply it liberally and then almost scrape all of it off, but we're not, as we try to produce a smooth finish. And as we applied the spackling compound, we stuffed it into the open seam, and when it dries, we'll likely sand it and apply some more. We're going to let our spackling compound dry overnight and then sand it tomorrow morning. One module done, 9 more to go. We've applied a second coat of spackling compound to the module, and so now we're going to give it a light sanding. We're gonna wipe the dust off. And take a look and see what things look like. And on close inspection, as we take a look at the seam between the module frame and the styrofoam, it looks as if we've got it all pretty much sealed up. So now to get on with the next step, applying some latex brown paint. So now that we've got the spackling compound applied and sanded to the module, we're going to give the top of the module a couple of coats of latex flat brown paint, and we're going to cover up that blue that we see on the styrofoam. So let's start. And we can start to see how that seam between the module frame and the styrofoam has pretty much disappeared, which is what we want. We've pretty much got that first coat of flat latex brown paint applied, and it's looking pretty good. We're going to let that dry and apply a second coat. Our first coat of flat latex brown paint has nicely dried, and that's made quite a difference from just looking at that blue styrofoam. So we're going to apply a second coat of paint, and we'll see what it looks like after that. We're going to apply our second coat of paint to the module deck, and that's just going to finish things off to make it look nice and professional. Now if we found that we still had some imperfections in the module deck, we could just simply apply some more spackling compound, lightly sand, and just paint over things. So we're going to let that second coat of paint dry, and then on with the next steps.